Natural funk moved him down.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm fine with him being a third quarterback behind Mahomes and Lamar. I have no problem with that. But I think he should be in the top 10. I think he is one of the best football players in the league. Like, this dude is a football player. Like, and I get it that we judge him by position, but he has so much, like, I can't say he has more than Mahomes, riding on him, because Mahomes didn't have much help offensively last year outside of Kelsey. But that whole team is kind of based around Josh Allen. And this season, they're going into it like he's so good, we don't have to really have a proven receiver, a proven number one receiver. James Cook's a good running back. He's not a great running back. They do have good tight ends, but it's just so much on his shoulders, and he's going to carry them to 10 or 11 wins. And you look at the last 5 years, I mean, we're looking at who at least Nick and I think is the best quarterback we've ever seen. And Josh Allen over the last 5 years has 23 more touchdowns than him. And then you take out Mahomes, and he's got 51 more touchdowns than anybody else in the league. I know it includes rushing, but last year he led the league in touchdowns by a nice margin. So I just think he is a great football player, and he should be in the top 10.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bro. He should be in the top 10. This isn't just a quarterback draft here. It's would he be one of the top 10 players taken if you were choosing players? And the guy's won 10-plus games every year except his first year. They won the division 4 years in a row. And I think there's a lot of expectations from him, and people think that he's underachieving. To me, he's overachieved since he's been there, and he should get the credit that he deserves for the impact that he's had on that organization. And to win 4 straight division championships, significant.
Hold on. He's overachieved since he's been there?
Yeah.
They won the division the year before he got there with Tyrod Taylor. I'm sorry, they didn't win the division. They made the playoffs. I misspoke. No. They made the playoffs. They'd only made the playoffs. They had made the playoffs in
like 7
right,
years.
And it was right before he got there with Tyrod Taylor, and then people got mad because Taylor got benched for Nate Peterman. I remember the whole thing. I think that Josh has certainly overachieved from what I thought he was going to be after his rookie season. But over the last 3 years, when there have been actual expectations, no one can argue he's overachieved. The last 3 years, he has had 3 bites at beating Mahomes, couldn't do it. He got 1 bite at beating Burrow in his building.
There's a ton of people that have had bites at beating Mahomes that haven't been able to do it. That doesn't mean they don't belong in the top 10.
I don't know. To me, if any of these guys, they are thought to have had, and I think last year and 2 years ago the Bills were thought to have had enough talent to beat the Chiefs. 2 years ago is because the Bills were stacked. Last year is because the Chiefs were bereft of talent. And you just can't do it. And in the intervening year, a different quarterback and a different team comes to your building in ideal conditions, theoretically, for your team from Buffalo. Cold, snow, your building. And they dog walk you from start to finish. Again, I'm fine with the ranking, but I don't think we can say they've overachieved. The Buffalo Bills every year are one of the Super Bowl favorites. Every year, they're no matter how they do in the regular season, they're talked about at the end of the year as one of the most dangerous teams. So I don't know how that's over. To me, they have not overachieved.
The one that's the most disappointing of those 3, I mean, you lose to Mahomes, but the one against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That was where they had it. They should have been able to win that game, and that was the most disappointing. Last year, I thought he played well. I know he wasn't great in the fourth quarter, but I thought he played well against the Chiefs. They lost by, 3? And then, obviously, a couple years ago, we know what happened.
And you don't give him any credit. That there's a significant amount of adversity for that team throughout the course of the season. The Dolphins have a 3-game lead on them with 5 games to go. They figure out a way to continue to win. They go on that winning streak and end up winning the division. You got to give them some credit for dealing with adversity, just not. The
Dolphins had a 3-game lead on them because in week 1, Josh is playing a team whose season is just blown up on them, and he gives the game to them. They lost to the Patriots last year, didn't they?
Yeah, he gave it to them.
Because Josh gave it to him. Again, I am not – it's weird because I think Josh is clearly one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football, and I said that I think that this ranking's fine. I just think that he is just judged by such a different standard than every quarterback I know of. It's just like, hey, man, we can't hold against you that your primary rival, who for a year plus, it's ended now, people said you were better than, and your team said we're obsessed with, and that you were ranked 1 and he was ranked 2 in quarterback rankings. Well, now it's just fait accompli. You can't beat him. You get him in your building. That's fate on a team that nobody believed in. That everybody said that Chiefs team was dead. You can't beat them. And that Burrow beat
For
them.
multiple weeks, everybody said that Buffalo team was dead.
And then going into that football game,
There were two teams that everybody said were dead.
I know that
it's not like Buffalo rolled in there, this massive powerhouse.
I just know how we talk about quarterbacks, and I know that quarterbacks that in consecutive years lose home playoff games as a favorite in round 2 don't typically all of a sudden move up of the quarterback hierarchy. I just know historically that's not how we do it.
But I guess this poll is the quarterback hierarchy.
Well, I think
I didn't realize this was.
I think in general I think he's in general considered a top 3 quarterback.
Finally making his debut at number 20, C.J. Stroud. He wasn't on the list last year. The number 20 spot means C.J. is only behind Mahomes, Lamar, Josh, Dak, and Jalen. His rookie season, he was first in yards per game. He was first in touchdown interception ratio. Yards per pass, he was third. Big plays, he was third. And passer rating, he was fifth. Broody, you like the idea that Stroud is already top 20?
I mean, look, obviously he's got to go out and basically duplicate it or play close to that or better this year. But I think based on, like last year, he was a top 20 player. I think you have to give him that. Yeah. And he's going to have a better running game this year, I think, with Joe Mixon. Better receivers. Tank Dell, who got hurt, is there, obviously. And now you got Stephon Diggs. So, yeah, I think, I mean, unless he falls flat on his face, and I don't see any reason with his character, his work ethic, the coaching staff, the additions that I just mentioned, I don't see any reason he should fall on his face. And he kind of played in a little pro-style offense at Ohio State. So he's been, it's not just something he picked up last year. He's kind of been playing that way. So I think he'll stay in the top 3.
Uh-oh.
I know the hype machine is in full force, and I know that Nick consistently complains that I'm too late instead of too early on viewing quarterbacks. But you do need to see a body of work. So let's take a little blind reveal.
Oh, wow.
Let's see if we can figure out another quarterback that was on the hype machine. Almost identical statistics here to C.J. Stroud.
That was a rookie year?
This was the rookie year that everybody said this was going to be game-changing. This
is RG3?
Can we go ahead?
Okay, this RG3's knee got turned around backwards.
You're saying that's the only thing that
No, I also think
he got his head got big. Now, CJ was out there this summer. He was all over the place.
Pretty consistent statistics.
Also the Shanahan system, so you can have that as well. You can slow it. No, okay. All right, that I think's too
RG3
unfair.
was not the passer, CJ. Would you agree with that?
We have identical.
I mean, the numbers.
This was going to. It was game changing. It was. It was very similar to the flowers that we're giving CJ. And look, I respect what CJ did, especially as a rookie. It's really hard to do. He changed the trajectory of the organization, but so did RG3 at that point. They were coming off a 5-11 season, and he changed that in Washington at that point.
All right, that's fair. And I know, like Coach said, the coach will be, would rather miss the train by 3 days than be 5 minutes early. Meanwhile,
Nick shows up at the airport at like
exactly
5
right. I'm like an old person going on a trip. I like to be nice and early. So I agree with everything Bruce said, and I'll go a step further. I think it's on the board that when this poll happens next year, he's the second quarterback on it.
Yeah, because we think he's an MVP
candidate. Yeah, I think
he's better than Lamar Jackson.
I think that it's. I think that it's on the board that next year. Just by the way, Jalen Hurts all of a sudden went from unranked, I think to number 3, but the number 2 quarterback. I think that CJ, the Texans have treated this, in my opinion, very smartly, which is quarterback's cheap, So let's not wait. We've got him. We played him. We trust our coach.
Yep.
We've drafted well on defense. They have 2 studs in Stingley and Will Anderson. The Autry suspension hurts him, but he'll be back. And let's add Diggs, add weapons, go right now. And if they find themselves, if he gets the honor of losing the Arrowhead Invitational and has a great year, then all of us, I think that people could look at him and be like, oh, he's the second best quarterback in football. I'm not saying I think that now. And I don't think he is the second best quarterback in football right now. But I think that spot is open. I think Lamar's playoff failures work against him. I think Josh's inability to beat either of his primary rivals in the biggest games work against him. And I think CJ, you can say this unfair, I think CJ just winning a playoff game last year as a rookie is on a free roll from what happened after that. I know they lost to Lamar after that.
Yeah, it's kind
but just because
slate,
he's
I
a
guess.
rookie.
Yeah.
And so I think that if they're excellent this year, Wilds, and he's great again, people are going to say, why isn't he one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in football?
Guess so.
Yeah, I would definitely. I mean,
I think
It's
that's
open.
I think that's
It's not open.
What do you mean?
He can't. If he win, you think if Mahomes doesn't win MVP, who's your pick?
Well,
CJ
Lamar-
Stroud.
Oh, did you
he
guys
won't
do
be-
this yesterday?
Yeah, I
No,
believe
no.
we
Well,
did.
we did a little bit of it yesterday. Yeah, I like C.J. Stroud, but I feel like there's a little bit of Lamar disrespect baked into this. He
Well,
went up-
again, this poll-
Lamar dismantled that team.
This poll-
Like, C.J. Stroud did win one game.
No, look, it'll still, you can argue Lamar or Burrow or Allen, whoever you want, even if CJ wins MVP. But this poll, which is all about what have you done for me lately? He would
Man,
be, he would be second.
I think
We're
that
already to next year's poll.
Purdy, by the way, could be super high. I think that CJ last year, let me put it like this. I think CJ's last year, the playoffs for CJ Stroud were a resounding success.
Yeah.
I think the playoffs last year for Lamar were a failure because they're at different places of their careers with different expectations and, different steps on the journey. That's why I look at it, even though
At
Lamar
what
beat
point is
CJ.
CJ be like, all right, we're no longer treating you as the freshman?
Oh, I think this year. I think this
Okay.
year. I think rookies
So if he
are
goes
just
back
judged
into
differently.
Baltimore
and they lose, then
and
no
they
one's
lose,
going to
it's
have
like,
him out of it.
then he won't be number 2.
Jeez, that's a quick preview of 2025. Just got fired up. Why one person here has more faith in the Jets than the Cowboys.
Nobody could. Jets.
It's true.
No.
Next, first things first. Frustrations to Nick Harris. Take a listen.
Why should the fan base have confidence that this team can still win a Super Bowl?
Well, let me just say this. I think our fan base is frustrated. And I think they want to beat a Green Bay, and I think they want to beat the next one that comes up. Now, we're the 2nd seed in the whole NFC. And we were as healthy as any club that has been in the playoffs in many years. Not just the Cowboys, any club. We were healthy. We should have gone further. And we had a quarterback that arguably was the most valuable player in the league last year. We should have gone further.
Yeah.
Jeez, if I was Mike McCarthy, I wouldn't like that. WFAA Dallas broadcaster Mike Leslie tweeted out a picture of a sparsely attended Cowboys practice and wrote, Cowboys fans are out on this franchise more than I can ever remember. The attendance so far at camp is way down. More an opinion and a literal
I think that
snapshot,
picture
but-
says a lot.
I-
You look at the Chiefs things, and it's like thousands.
Some of those pictures I
they
just...
did win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just.
Just a
I
grain
get
of
it.
salt. It's time,
But it looks bad. I don't know
didn't look
how
great, and-
accurate it is or
But
telling.
should Cowboys fans be frustrated?
I mean, I would think absolutely. The two teams we talk about the most in each sport, the 2 most prestige fan bases or franchises, are having very similar off seasons in the Cowboys and the Lakers. Both teams had last season happen for different reasons, but were clearly not good enough and not championship caliber. And both teams' owners have been like, you know what I'm okay with the plan being? Nothing. The Lakers are trying to sell us our big additions are the guys who we already had getting healthy. And the Cowboys, I don't know what they're trying to sell you. Because they keep selling you all in while being the least active team in free agency, spending the least amount of cash of any team in the league, and not address, saying during the draft, we love this running back. I've never been higher on a player, only to forget you haven't drafted him yet and then not get him. You talk about your quarterback could have won MVP. You love all these players. Wait for leaves to fall. None of those guys are signed yet. I assume at least one of them will be. So I think the fans are angry, Brew. I also think Jerry, from those quotes, revealed a bit, which is he thinks they were a Super Bowl caliber team last year. They lost in round one. So I think one of the reasons they haven't re-signed the coach, and one of the reasons I do not think they're going to re-sign the quarterback before the year, is they want to see if it can be different. Because if not, then what are they doing? So, yeah, I think the fans should be angry. I think Jerry's a little angry.
They absolutely should be. And Jerry went on. He obviously spoke a lot longer than we showed. And he was talking about, are the fans all in? Are the fans still behind us? And you know what he went to? Ticket sales, money, merchandise sales, all of that stuff, which, again, if you just read between – you don't even have to read between the lines. Look at what he's saying. He's saying it worked. Remember a couple of days ago, he said it works?
Yeah.
Well, what's working? You're not winning. What's working is you're making the team more and more valuable. We know they're the most valuable team. $9 billion is their worth. That's the most of all the American sports teams. And you said it, Nick, but I'm going to give you a few numbers. You said they spend the least amount of money. From 2021 to 2023, they were 30th in a 32-team league in money spent, cash spent that year. From 2016 to 2019, they were dead last. And from 2013 to 2016, they were 25th. So your team is the most valuable in America, and yet you're spending essentially the least amount of cash, or right there near the bottom. So I think fans, if they're educated, they're looking at it saying, we say we won a Super Bowl, but we're not, spending the money on the players, and we're celebrating being relevant, being valuable as a franchise and things like that. So I think, and you didn't even mention the players they lost. They didn't improve, but they lost a bunch of good players.
Yeah, this could be a potential coaching change during the season based off of an interview like that.
Well, there we go.
Well, look.
Wow, first person to fire a coach this year is coach.
When you watch an interview like that and he lists all the reasons that you underachieved, and he talks about having the MVP quarterback and we should have beat Green Bay and we were super. There's some anger and frustration there from him, which is palpable in that interview, and you don't usually see the owners talk like that, especially at the start of the next season. In terms of wins, they've had 3 consecutive 12-win seasons. In terms of money spent, the numbers that you talked about, but they're 21st in salary cap space. It's not like they have a lot of space, and they have spent money on players, and they couldn't really do much with free agency because your 3 best players need to be addressed. You've got CeeDee Lamb, you've got Micah, and you've got to you should do something with Dak based off of his number this year and the dead money next year. The fans, to me, are frustrated because of the amount of talking that goes on where you're constantly resetting the expectations, and it's their fault. It's their fault the fans are frustrated because there's 4 teams that haven't had a winning season in 6 years. There's a lot of organizations whose fan bases have a lot more reason to be angry than the Dallas Cowboys, but the talking, the expectations kill them.
When should Mike McCarthy feel nervous?
Look, he went into the season knowing what it is, right. and you know that if you don't win, you're gone. And judging by the way that Jerry's talking, I would think they're going to need a pretty good start and be really competitive through the early part of the year. If it gets ugly early or a losing streak early, that doesn't look great.
To add, though, to Coach's point, Coach talking about they've had 3 straight 12-win seasons, and they're a half dozen franchises that haven't had a winning season in however long. Throughout NFL history, there have been a ton of teams that go through these long dry spells like what the Broncos are going through right now, or the Jets, or those teams off the top of my head who are on those lists. Carolina. We have never seen a team have 3 straight 12 or more win seasons with this level of postseason futility attached to it. And remember, if you remember last year, we had the graphic, all the teams ever that had done it. And almost all of them won a Super Bowl on the front end or back end or in the middle of it. And all of them had at least either multiple Super Bowl or conference championship game appearances. To have 3 straight, so it's like almost a different type of fan torture. Like just, oh, we stink. We know we're going to stink. We hope we hit the quarterback. Or every year, it's like this could be the year, only to have the rug pulled out from underneath you is like different.
It's a different level of disappointment.
Goodness gracious. I can't believe you're firing Mike McCarthy. I dropped it in the middle of the segment.
It won't be me that fires him.
Franchise valuations.
Don't
About the impact that Saquon is going to have on the Eagles. Take a listen.
He's a special player. We've been able to see him twice a year, every year. Going against him, I remember him running down the sideline, giving the peace sign as he scores a touchdown. So I'm excited for him to do that for us. It's a little bit. It just feels surreal having a running back like that. He's going to be able to change the game so much for us.
I mean, just further proof of what Brew's been saying, and you were the first person to ever say it.
As far as I know, I was.
Which is what?
I think he can have a Christian McCaffrey type impact on this team. And look, the Niners were really good before McCaffrey got there. They had a ton of weapons, so I don't think it's that much of a reach. Barkley, Nick, was arguably a top 5 running back in New York, where he had a bad offensive line all those years, bad, I would say, quarterback play all those years. No real receivers. The defenses could stack the box, they could focus on him, and he still, when healthy, would give you over 1,000 yards.
Yep.
What's he going to do when you can't stack the box? You got to worry about the receivers. You got to worry about the tight ends. You got to worry about Jalen Hurts. There's only one reason, in my view, to be skeptical about Saquon Barkley, and it's legit his health, because he does get hurt. But if he's healthy, I don't know why we don't think he'd be great.
What about the fact that Saquon Barkley has been in the league for 6 years and has had 1 A+ year, and it was his first year? Is that not a concern? And since then, yes, he has suffered injuries, but that it's not only that he lost time because of the injuries, but it's also maybe he's not quite as dynamic. Like, we can show you.
There aren't very many running backs that have great years on bad offensive teams.
Okay, but I guess Christian McCaffrey did multiple times.
And he had some
Derrick
down
Henry
years
did
with Carolina.
multiple times.
Well, Henry's different. I mean, he's Henry's on another level.
All right, that's fine.
But I'm just saying, McCaffrey was not viewed as a future Hall of Famer in Carolina.
I think McCaffrey was incredible in Carolina.
Thank you, Coach.
McCaffrey was the only bright spot.
Well, it wasn't that bright, though. Because how many games were they winning?
They moved on from him because of the injuries. They didn't move on from him.
I thought it was similar to Barkley.
And he's been incredibly healthy in San Francisco, which has been